Hello, this is Lisa Russick with the podcast We Are All Psychic, and today we have a really super special special guest named Melissa. And Melissa, would you like to say hello?
Hello everyone.
Melissa, right away I have a question for you, as if you didn't know. Do you think we're all psychic?
Yes.
Yes, and is there a longer answer to that, perhaps? How did you get there?
Yes. I was like, I have to do this as a yes/no, but then there are qualifiers. I think that that is an extraordinary question. It's brilliant, and it opens us into a portal of, I think the first step is to define terms and talk about what psychic means.
Yes.
Because I think that is where it can get a little muddy for people.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
There's not like a defined technical aspect that we could bring to that. And so for me, psychic means stepping away from what you see in movies and what you may be kind of even sideshow action, kind of cool, which is also can be part of it. But in the most grounded and really rational way, psychic to me means having the ability to perceive information from more subtle sources.
I love that. I think that's really cool. Yes. So what are those subtle forces and sources? Like, what do you consider that? Is that vibrations and energies that maybe we like right in between our sensory ranges? That's kind of what I would think of it as.
Yep. I really love this. This is like my jam because I can start in the big stuff, right? What I can project, which is I listen to dead people all day, and I hang out with the dead, and I talk to trees, and I receive messages from nature, and that is true for me, right? And we can always have a different conversation about what truth means and define those terms.
Personally, I mean, for me, the only thing that I know is what I felt. If I feel something, then I know that. That's pretty much what I feel. I can say I know. That's it.
Well, I think that really answers the other question at hand, which is, what are the subtle sources? What are they vibration? What is the information I'm referring to? And if it's felt in the body, exactly what you just said, then it's real to us. I think there are checks and balances that we could put into place to always see how externally valid that information is and applies. And that's different from one situation to the next. But if you feel it in your body, then it's real. And that is exactly the place to start. So for a really practical application example of this is when I'm teaching my newbie witches, right? When they're coming forward, and there's the ones who are especially good with energy work. And that's a gift, because all of us have gifts once we start exploring. We have an advancement in the practice where we really get good at sensing within the body. And you can do all kinds of work with that. But then also sensing the negative spaces between your limbs. What if you're standing with the feet apart? Where do you sense? Can you sense your own presence beyond the boundary of your skin, and how you fill up the room with your presence and how others might feel your presence? And so that to me is sort of the groundwork of starting to sense in the more subtle ways.
Yes. We did a podcast. The last podcast I did with my old co-host, was how to feel your energy field. And it's kind of what you're describing is how you feel that. And you're saying spaces in between your energy fields. Yes.
And the better we are as movers, kinesthetically, and that is in with whatever realm of possibility that is in for each of us. But the more we practice being really well versed in our physical bodies in any way that is available, that is the foundation for then also being able to sense. It is a foundation to then be able to sense into those energy fields also.
Yeah.
That's the sort of that primary place. And then, I can sense on top of that. Fascinating, I think.
I love that. Well, listeners and watchers, I do want to let you know this is a video on Spotify and YouTube. And Melissa she has a topic that is very dear to my heart that we're going to talk about. Of course, we'll probably go on tangents. That's kind of a specialty of this podcast. And she said she likes them. So tangents are boy, we're going to have them. But she likes to really empower the feminine, the women, empower women to be our authentic selves is what I gather from what I read and what you talked about and stuff like that. And before the podcast listeners, I was telling her that, it's a very dear to me subject coming from the South as a woman. And if you're a regular listener, you've heard. Because Melissa, I do talk about that. Yeah, throughout the years I've done this podcast. Before I moved to Nashville, I talked about how this is a struggle for a woman in the South. And my co-host is she was from the South. I didn't always live there. Absolutely. And so like she lives from like Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, all those areas. But like I had grown up my younger years in New England. But so listeners and watchers, I'm really excited. She's going to like talk about all the ways we maybe find our innate powers within us instead of like listening to what the men tell us to do. And men, if you're done with that, man, if you're listening, you can apply this to your sensitive side, your feminine side. Empower your feminine side. You will get any woman you want.
Yeah, amen. I can tell you how. Is it a place? I'm assuming the use of patriarchy, the use of that language, is normal here in this space. I just really appreciate what Lisa brought up. We're so used to bringing this forward for women's sake, which is true. And for the men who do listen, you are welcome, because anyone who studies patriarchy through any lens, whether it's philosophically, historically, socially, economically, patriarchy hurts everyone. It hurts everyone. And it only supports a very particular niche or a subset of a particular man in our society that we're seeing kind of turn back towards. And so I am fully happy for all of this information to empower the men who are listening as well, the women who are listening, however you identify, whatever your sexuality, however you feel in your body. We all have female and male attributes, as you could see through a societal lens, but we also have masculine and feminine energies, which are completely separate from the social constructs I was just referring to a moment ago.
You're right. They are different. They are. I've always felt more masculine than feminine when I was younger, and as I got older, I felt more feminine. It was kind of strange, but I still have male interests as far as like what I do. Like I love technology and like my phone and my computer and all. Yeah, and I love music and audio and stuff like that. I've always had an interest in male-driven fields where I couldn't really get very far. When in earlier years in the 2000s and stuff like that, I couldn't get on the road being a live sound tech with a band because I've tried to, but I was told a woman doesn't belong on the road and then audio. It's like but it wouldn't be like that now. I don't think. I hope not.
I see differences in what the women who are younger than I am, and I'm very happy to see that they have less barriers to certain experiences that make me feel really, really proud. I'm turning 44 this month, and it feels like part of my elderhood.
Thank
you. This is such a gift for me today to be like, yay, podcast on my birthday. And I do this empowerment work we're talking about. I am very passionate about because it has the potential to heal everyone.
It does,
right? Yeah. And I feel that as a responsibility as I grow into midlife now, more and more.
Yeah. Yes, that's a kind of an interesting point. Here's a tangent for you, listeners and watchers. As we get older, I do feel more of a responsibility to like my society. I don't feel like I fit in my society very well. I think that I've just worked from home since 2006. So that's probably a big reason. I haven't been out in society much and worked out in the real world much, but for me, like, there goes that the thought I had just went.
It was like, here we go, and you were talking about like as we get older.
Oh yeah, the responsibility to like to give back, to see the future progress. I don't have biological children, but I do want I love the younger generations. I think they're doing amazing things, and I hope that they will continue to be given some kind of grace like our generation wasn't. Generation X was not given any chance yet to really come in and make rules and stuff, make laws and we are listened to. But hopefully the generation is younger than us that we influenced to be more sensitive. They are more sensitive. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there were men listening to this podcast, biological men who identify as heterosexual men, who could get something out of this to learn about their feminine side, especially in that generation, because so many of them are very sensitive and committed to themselves and their self-growth. I find that really interesting.
I do think that's true. I think that there is, as I hit my midlife, that resonates for me, that sense of responsibility you're pointing out. There's also a focus on legacy. I also don't have children. It's not something I have any emotional baggage around. I feel very neutral about it. And it shows me that the need if I talk about, like, from my identity point, like, if one wants to be a good person, the way I define good personhood, I want to leave behind some positive impact, right? Some kind of legacy. And I think that, to your point, that younger people, even though we are seeing a certain swing in conservatism again, which is fascinating also as a sociological contrast, there is ease for the younger people around mental health.
Yes.
In a way that we didn't have sort of in our 20s or even our 30s. And that encourages me. Like, when I see Instagram and and sometimes, like, the stuff is pithy and it doesn't do a whole lot, but at least it's out
people
there.
People are trying. Yeah.
Yes.
They're making 100%. It known and making people aware that emotions are important. They're probably just as important as anything. The emotions are important and valid.
I am starting as we tangent along, but I think this brings us back to the psychic question, actually. As I've studied psychology, even in college, under more formal academic structures, but then kind of, like, started doing coaching and exploring all these, and then seeing, like, the parallels in ceremonial magic and conscious kink and all of that work, I too am having a moment where I was like, I'm tangenting. And then I saw all the things I wanted
we're both doing. We're flowing so well. I think we're reading each other's energy as we're talking, and then we're forgetting what we're talking about. I was going there with you, and I got it, and then I was like, woo!
Audience, listeners, I hope you're plugged in.
They love it. They are used to this. Don't worry.
Now I remember the importance of emotions. There was a time where, because I am very emotionally sensitive and aware, and that's great. But I've also very much often valued my intellectual capacity more than the emotional, because it was survival. It's a lot of our experience total collectively. It's how you can produce in a capitalist society. It's all this stuff.
Yeah.
But now I have come to recognize that the emotional quotient, your EQ, is not only where the magic lies in our witchcraft, one of the greatest sources of magic, but it's also, you can have really incredibly intellectually intelligent people who are in an emotional quotient awareness deficit, and you can see the destructive nature of their being. And I don't mean psychopaths. Like, we want to be really clear with this language. Like,
destructive and creative. They're
right. Because you can be a psychopath who's good in society and does their thing. Like, it's where people are talking about, like, where emotional health was once seen as a luxury. And I have also been in that experience where I believed that at one point. Emotional health and well-being is the primary drive. Your emotional self is the primary drive for all that other intellectual capacity shit.
Amen.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah. So, like, yes.
And how can you do anything with all this if your emotional is not, nice and happy or, calm?
I mean, I think you can do a lot, but does it, what's the quality of experience you're bringing, whatever you're creating, for yourself and for others?
Yes. I have a question. So, like, okay, tangenting back.
Yeah, pulling it back.
Pushing back to empowering the women and the feminine. I kind of wanted to ask, like, when I was younger, I don't know if I think we talked about this a little bit, maybe not though. I really, like, I had a friend who said, I had a crush on a guy, and my friend says, why don't you use your feminine wiles on him? And I was like, what are those?
Like, my version.
That's what I was like. He's like, like, toss your hair. And I was like,
weird things that we're taught.
He's like, no. He's like, no. Hey, try something different, like to touch your lips. And I'm like, I don't know. I can't do this feminine wiles thing, you know. And I just couldn't embrace that softer side, the feminine side. But it was because I was always feeling like I needed to keep my emotions in check. And in the culture I was in the South, mainly women, there wasn't, at the age I was at in the 90s, we weren't supposed to have emotional displays in where I lived and stuff like that. Even as women, we weren't supposed to show our emotions much. And like we couldn't chase a dude, for example. You know, that it would be not good for a woman to go after a guy in the 90s and tell him she likes him. If you were going to do that, you had to tell your best friend to tell his best friend to tell their best friend to tell him, you know, or something like that, you know. You had to get clever. And then like I had trouble with my feminine image, I guess you could say, in general, because like I told you earlier in the podcast, I had interests in male dominated fields. As far as like I went into college in chemical engineering. That's obviously a dominated field.
The brain you have.
Well, I couldn't do the calculus. I just had, once I got to the calculus, I was like, nah. I could do the chemistry, and I could do I like biochemistry, but I couldn't math. Like math was too hard for me.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just had a bad teacher. Who knows? But I just
there's space there to explore that absolutely through that gender lens.
Well, I just fell in love with music, and I started writing again. I was liked writing. I went into English in college, but I still, to this day, I have problems with my femininity. Like, how do I express it? How do I express it with authenticity? Because I feel like I don't have that authentic feminine side. Unless I'm like with someone I'm in love with and I'm feeling that way. And that doesn't even happen that much. It just doesn't come to me naturally, but I want to. It feels suppressed. Like it feels like it needs empowerment. So one of your clients, like, how would you go about like trying to bring that out in me, that confidence or whatever I need to not feel like I'm inhibiting something that I don't even know how to express, you know, but I have it. Yeah. It has been expressed. It does happen, but it's just not all the time, you know? So demonstration time.
I am a buzz in my body because I'm like, yes, this conversation is going to hopefully demystify for ourselves further, because there is no like finality or great authority on how this all works. I feel like I've gotten pretty far and don't destroy certain aspects of my life so I can go, hey guys, I think I have some information to share. And so then, with that spirit in mind, I absolutely want to tackle the question, which is, how do I empower my feminine self? What does that mean is what I'm hearing. How do I identify that? Do I even have models for that identification? And we're gonna hold on to that one for a second, because I want to go back to the story you were telling, if that's okay.
Yeah.
With your friend who was like, flip your hair, touch your lips. And I'm resonating with exactly Lisa's performance of it, because she wasn't being asked to be in touch with her feminine. She was being asked to be performative. And if Lisa wasn't in touch with that for herself and wasn't comfortable in experiencing her own sensual pleasure in her body for herself, how was she going to know what is expected in a performative lens?
That is so true. And I was like 15. I didn't know what. Yeah. It's perfect. Yeah, that was the problem.
That's why when we do come to this work as adults, which is often when we come to it, right? Like the conversation we're really having in that empowerment space is, hey, so the way that I've been playing at being feminine or woman or empowered, that's not working. I'm not getting the right relationships. I don't feel good in myself. I'm not happy. I can't have an orgasm. Like whatever the pain points are that come from that, it's really because that has to feel true for you. Remember, folks, in the very beginning of the conversation, what feels real in your body is truth to you. So if you can't feel your feminine power, how the fuck are you going to project it out into the world to get what you want, whether it's a man, whether it's money, whether it's, whatever you're manifesting, whatever conceptually. So does that make sense? Sort of like a starting point to make
that's a great starting point. That helps a lot. You already reframed a lot of the concepts I had around that whole scenario itself, you know.
Well, I also suffered a lot of suffered is a very strong word choice I just made in a world of great suffering. Let me rewind for a second. It is great suffering, by the way, when you're a teenager. And
it is great suffering. You don't know anything else.
You don't know anything else.
The first time you suffered, it hurts.
And we need to... That is so true. And what we all need to be aware of in these conversations is that if you're dating, in your relationship, if you're trying to find romance, if you're trying to relate to other human beings in any way where there is like a possible romantic or sexual tension
and vulnerability,
we're all teenagers. You could be twice divorced with 5 children and you still that teenage you. And until we start being really aware of that,
I didn't think about that. That is so true.
I had a long talk with my teenage selves where I was like, you can't keep driving the car in that department, right? So that's like one level of empowerment is like, I'm going to make the conscious choice of what part of me, what energy, what need, what desire drives this next behavioral decision.
Okay.
Right? Like that is conscious choice. I'm aware of where it's coming from. I'm aware of the risks and the consequences. I feel equipped to manage those if it falls through that way. That's an adult.
Okay.
Right? Like that
yes, adulting.
That's the adulting. That's the adulting voice. So like when we're talking about this, I completely understand exactly what Lisa was saying because, our culture innovates at an accelerated pace.
Yes.
So 90s to us is like it's going so fast. That was like
the Bible to someone just born.
right. Like time is so skewed that way. So where I really feel Lisa in my teenagehood with her in the 90s, like that, my God, I didn't know how to flirt, wasn't interested in that, was already very dominant and aggressive.
Yeah. I was very passive.
Right. So like where everybody comes wherever they're starting and then they start trying to figure it out. And the reactions I would get when I would be like, I don't need to play games. And I would go up to a boy at a party and be like, are you single? I think you're hot. Can we talk? And then they would have a mental breakdown because I didn't know that they were dealing with their insecurities. And so as that fell apart, those interactions, I internalized the messaging of I'm not attractive and I don't know how to do this. So just repress that.
Yeah.
And move along. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think Lisa understands a lot of that. I think the listeners are going to hear a lot in our stories, if that makes sense.
I wish I could go up to someone and be like, you're the one I want. You're the one that I want.
Well, we're going to work on that. We're going to work on some role play here.
You're mine. Gimme.
Exactly. And so like you don't have the tools for interaction. You're told that these are the rules. By the way, no one understands or likes those rules really.
There are,
and we're all forced to play by them.
We tell ourselves a lot of the rules.
100%.
Like it's his turn to call. It's his turn to and it's we have to wait 3 days to talk to so and so.
Right. Or I shouldn't say that, or I shouldn't sound like that,
or I should sex now, or I shouldn't sex now.
Right. Right. There's these rules and there's these outcomes and formulas. And I also want to add another layer here. And I know this is complicated. I know people might be like, this is more complicated. Yes, this is why it's hard to be empowered. Because it's complicated, because human beings are complicated, because the layers of experience are complicated. And in the intersectionality of our beings is where we really find ourselves, is in all the cross-section of all the layers, like a tree. When you cut the trunk and you see all the rings and you're like, oh my God, like
look at all I did.
Like, look at everything I've lived through. No wonder my identity is kind of all over the place. And another layer here that we have to call out, particularly for cisgendered females. Everyone is welcome in this conversation. Everyone has a different experience. But for cisgendered females who had an upbringing where they had to be, for whatever reason, tougher, stronger, and put on certain masculine attributes in order to survive in industry, if you come from a fatherless home like I came from, if you came from an extraordinarily chaotic and abusive, violent home life like I came from, and then a poor neighborhood full of gangs, like you have to, how do you take a woman who starts out in that and survives it and then finds success in some way and then be like, but be soft.
Yeah.
Soft power though.
What does that mean to you?
Soft power.
Yeah.
And so much of this work gets fucked up for us because it's a cruel distance for that pendulum to swing without any real preparation.
It
to go
is.
from one to the other.
It is.
Without being taught about how do you cross that parabola.
And you had no examples, it sounds like.
Right. That is exactly where we're at with this. When was the last time anybody found a representation of soft and empowered femininity and masculinity that really resonated for them?
Right now, for me, I'm looking at you. You've got this. Like, you have this in your attitude and your tone of voice, and you don't have any kind of like I don't feel any. When I say attitude, is not the right word.
There's no hostility.
There's no hostility. There's no anything. And
no aggression.
There's just, I don't feel any pressure from you. You don't push energy out at people. Like, you don't want to change anyone's mind, and you just want to feel good, it seems like, and then help other people feel like themselves. And that's the most empowering thing, I think, to be, is I feel like myself and I can act like myself. To me, that would be the ultimate empowerment. And as a woman, in my femininity, I need to work on. I can put on the low-cut dress, but that I don't know what to do with it. I can let it hang out all day, but I don't know how to wile it.
How do I work it? And I want to thank you for that, the way you reflected that at me, because this is work that I'm passionate about, because I came from a certain place, right, where I understand it, the pain of it, the suffering that comes from being disassociated from one's own power. I hear about you and what you can do with the sciences, and I think, my God, what would Lisa be if the society we had was different? What if she could have been a sound engineer on the road? There's all these challenges, and so I just feel very affirmed and very humbled by your feedback. And that was a great demonstration of being psychic, because she is using her extrasensory ability to also download with another human being and go, this person is very passionate and forceful in certain ways, but not aggressive and hostile. That is not a nuance that many people understand.
And it's not forceful either. It's passionate to me. It's very passionate, and it makes me want to get on board. And I am on board. I feel the empowerment, but it doesn't feel like power. It feels like
right. Like it's giving you, hey, you can have it too.
Yes.
It's that simple.
Yes.
It's that simple.
Confidence. So, it's like a confidence, but it's something else too. It's a belief in yourself, but it's not like confidence exactly.
I think that's fair. I think that sometimes I still have difficulty with confidence, like other people, or feeling insecure and attractive. Like those are, of course. Yeah. See, and this is something we can all own. Mm-hmm. I think where people can feel my drive and my passion is that I have witnessed a lot of bullying and have been the victim of a lot of bullying in my life. And bullying can be like those high school memories that come up, or middle school, or those really formative younger bullying.
It can even happen in workplaces still.
Exactly.
Age. Yeah.
That. Yeah. Marriages. Any external container. I was in a 13-year long abusive marriage.
I was too. 13-year relationship. 13-year relationship, 11-year marriage. Yeah.
Oh,
it was verbally abusive, though. It was a verbally abusive relationship. Yeah.
And I do understand it is important to sometimes qualify, like, what kind of abuse,
For me, it's important because it really messed up my head, and people can't understand, like, that's not that big of a deal. They didn't punch you in the face. Like, you almost did, though.
Well, and this is where we need to bring back that point about emotional intelligence. And if emotions are a luxury space, or if now they
were for me for a long time.
Exactly. And so when you operate from, my emotional well-being is a luxury, you're willing to negotiate. And then you get into relationships like the ones Lisa and I are talking about.
Yes, we do. You're right.
Until we rehab from that and go, well, no one can fuck with my peace. That's the new.
Yes, that's a really good. No one can fuck with our peace if we want to keep it that way. And it's even if they do, we can get it back.
And that's right.
We can reclaim it and get it back if they do mess with it.
That is correct. I want everybody here to know that you can go through a breakup, be devastated, heartbroken, do the playlist thing, hopefully dance your way through it, cry your way through it, learn something magnificent about yourself, and then do it again and move it along if you want to. or figure out how you want to live, because there's a lot of damage we've been given around that emotional context. So thank you for revealing that and sharing that.
It's difficult. I feel bad for a lot of the men in our society, in our age group, and older too. They can't really express themselves too well in society as far as their emotions go.
They've had no opportunities, barely any training. They have been given a lot of, and by the way, because I can feel the tidal wave of very deserved female rage when they're like, oh, boo hoo, I feel you. I am not, and this is for the men too, I am not saying anyone gets a pass. I am saying just because we have context and understanding, that does not equal exoneration from your behavior.
Right.
The context and understanding is so that you step into being accountable for your behavior. We are all responsible for growth and well-being. So, but I can understand and see how the men that I work with in the conscious kink space need a certain approach, and that to revile it or judge it when there hasn't been a lot of opportunity. If Lisa and I are allowed to have the struggle of being strong, powerful women in many ways, but still having difficulty trying to access what we feel to be authentic, soft, feminine power, why aren't other people entitled to their difficulties?
Right.
That all comes from systemic pressures. So let's all just understand and work together, but no one gets a free pass on bad behavior. Absolutely.
Sit back for a sec. Systemic pressure. Let's go dig down that. What is a systemic pressure?
I like that.
Down in there.
You relax.
Make a tunnel.
Yeah. Systemic pressures. I think that is really good catch-all language to describe the institution of patriarchy is one. Systemic racism is another pressure mechanism. Our current political scene, you can see how everyone is reacting under those pressure systems, and in the fight-flight response, what their tools are of choice and moments. Do they disassociate? Do they come forward in confrontation? Everyone's kind of going through it, dysregulated in a certain way. And we all have layers in our external containers. We have society, we have religion, we have culture, we have family. Those are all pressures of systemic expectation that's put upon you that you really start to internalize very, very quickly, that I didn't meet certain expectations. Is it good or bad? Am I part of the tribe? Am I not part of the tribe? This is useful to a certain point, but once you gain power, you have to use it in order to feel it, right? So you're an adult now. So if you don't agree with that religion and you're still practicing it because you're afraid of making your mom mad, then you got to grow the fuck up. I don't know,
Mom doesn't live with what your decisions are, right?
Thank you. That's it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Sort of
and there's a lot of people still, they can know this information and they know it's right. The mom's voice is still in there. And it's hard to get that voice out, that judgmental, especially if there was someone in our lives that was very strong energy. I think you have to have very strong energy to influence people like that, to make them feel lesser than they are, make them feel like they have to do anything other than be themselves.
Yeah.
That's energy being trained into
we're programmed.
You know what I mean? Patterns being put into energetic.
We're programmed by every.
It is. But I feel like it's done by energy, not just brains and emotions. I really feel like the most powerful women I've ever met have often used that power to box people in because they're afraid of their own power. So if everybody's in their boxes, they don't have to worry about dealing with their power or anything that comes with it. Because a lot of stuff comes with dealing with your own power and authentic identity.
My God.
The healing, the processing and
it's a humongous healing process. And one of the phases, and I call it a phase, but it'll come back because that's how it works. When you're like, I thought I did that. I thought it comes back again. And if you just accept that's normal, then you're fine. One of the barriers that I had to work through to access my power, and in the benevolent form that Lisa was calling it out, when I get passionate and to become self-aware and to take responsibility for that passion, to not intimidate or push people away or be violent, because I came from that. So I had to experience that and use that as a tool, right? Until I rehabbed that. But a lot of my difficulty with empowering the feminine, quote unquote, was that not only did not have models that I resonated with, I also had models I was really afraid of. So I had women in my life who were primary to me when I was a child in my most vulnerable state, demonstrating, trying to teach me how to be seductive already, how to manipulate men and for money already, like, which is true power in another way. It is a power one can use. It's a tool, but it was so anathema to my own way of being, even when I was younger, that I was like, I don't want to be objectified. I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't It was like your friend trying to tell you to perform, very similar. And so we all have that in us in some way. We have some potent experience from when we're teeny tiny, when we're little, when we're in our most vulnerable, that still is a thread that comes through. And I can hear one of my teachers' voices right now reminding me that the youngest versions of us are also the oldest, and they travel with us everywhere.
Interesting.
And that, whenever I remember that, it blows
think about
my
that.
mind. Yeah, totally.
Love that. It kind of, I've always thought, the very, very old and the very, very young were very similar in a lot of ways. Yeah, at those stages,
100%.
The 1 to 2 year old and the person closer to death, the age there.
Absolutely.
They have a peace about them. Not all of them, but a lot of times they are.
A lot of times we do, yeah.
Well, at this point, I really want to ask, before I do, I wanted to ask, where can the listeners and watchers find you? Where do you live? Where are you? What do you do? And how can
I live online?
How can they find, inner empowerment, feminine?
I'm a large language
inside
model
themselves. She's everywhere online. Just go into the internet.
Just go into the internet. I really like for people to go to my Instagram so they get a visual sense of what it means to be a somatic coach, a Domme, a death witch, a sex magic witch. Those are really exciting things to say. And then I like for people to see a really grounded application of that. Like, this is how I live life. So my Instagram @thebodywitch is really useful. And then if I could give Lisa a link to a sales page for like a completely free empowerment course, because I am really intent on people finding their power. And so if you're listening, you're like, one more free course, which is fair. That's fair. What I want people to know is it is to get you to understand how you can start stepping out of the past, out of the trauma, and into current present power. It's not going to be the end all be all. It is a starting point. And if you need practical tools to get you there now, this is a place to start. And I just want people to be open to that, because even if I never hear from you, I want the tools to be out there. I get to work with a lot of really amazing people, and I've learned amazing techniques that you usually reserve for working with like professional athletes or like C-level executives. And I'm like, why? Why them?
Yeah, like NLP therapy and stuff. Yeah,
100%. Everybody deserves to know about these tools.
Yes.
So they're there. That course.
Great. And listeners and watchers, I mean, I just feel like, Melissa, you also teach peacefully. I don't know if that makes sense.
I have not had that attributed, so I don't know.
You teach peacefully. The peaceful teacher attunement.
Oh,
I don't know. It's like there's just the energy. So it is grounded, but it's just like exciting, but not like. But it's like I want to, I am, if I were listening to this, I am listening to this. So I am listening to this, but if I weren't me listening to this, I would be very curious about what you do and what you're explaining. Especially when I was younger, it would have benefited me to have taken these kinds of empowerment courses or training, or even a free one. Especially that would have opened a door for me. Someone's giving me something, because someone giving me something for free and it's something I want to look into. That's huge. And sometimes people do give free things on the podcast, but not that much. So it's really nice that you do that. And listeners and watchers, I will put in the description of this podcast anything she wants. Almost.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding.
Wink, wink. Yeah.
Domme. But at this point, I also like to thank our sponsor, Everclear. Everclear is an advice app, and it's a website. You can get advice from psychics and empaths to get the clarity you need to create the life you deserve. And I am an advisor on Everclear, and my name is Lisa Russick. It used to be Lisa P, but now it's my name, Lisa Russick. And I love Everclear. And Melissa, lastly, I'm going to put you in some kind of strange scenario and ask you to give advice.
That's it. This is my life. This is how I work.
Let's say someone sends you an email and they're in their, let's say they're probably about 40, 38, and they're like, man, I've been married my whole life pretty much since I was 21, and I don't think I want to be with the guy I'm with. But if I leave him, I don't have any money, I don't have anywhere to go, I don't have any skills because I raise kids. What do I do? What would you, where would you go with that? Because those are excuses. It's truthful. Those are things that we can work with.
Yep.
These are self-imposed obstacles, but they are real, you know?
They're real. Yeah. I think we need to, what I want to avoid, and I hear Lisa giving a certain curve a very wide berth, when you're in the empowerment, energy, wellness, like there's a lot of murky shit going on here that it's wrong to pretend that the reality of a mother who doesn't have work skills yet, doesn't have another layer to move through when a woman who does not have children decides to leave an abusive marriage. It's not the same. I'm not saying it's worse. I'm not saying it's better. I'm saying it's not the same.
Well, even if it's not an abusive relationship, maybe she's just not happy anymore. She just isn't in love, and he just kind of didn't grow with her or something.
Correct.
And she feels like, she was younger and wanted a partner, and she needed it, and now she's wanting to do things on her own. And
absolutely, and that's good enough if you're done for whatever the reason is. And so, if I got that,
is good enough.
It is good enough.
She needs to hear that.
If honestly, if it was coming into my hands, I would do a little bit of background to make sure we're good on this decision. You're happy about where this is coming from. And if that is the go, then it's about, you're right. Now we have plans to put into place. So we have to, stop speaking about the situation in a certain way and start putting it into, okay, you don't have a job yet.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about what's possible. And we're going to also recognize that you're not the first or the last to be in this, and you will not be the only demonstration of successful exit and a recreation of the life to come. So it's really important that you don't isolate in the remarkable and unique aspects of your challenges and sufferings, and that then there's nothing there to work with.
That was beautiful,
right? Like
I love that. That was me a million times.
And 100%. And I'll do it again too. I will be confronted with something where I go, and I give myself a good 20 minutes. Correct. Like tantrum it out. But recognize that that's what you're doing so that you can get back into the empowerment seat and go, that situation, that might be a 1 to 3 year exit plan if you're safe in it.
Yeah.
That's what it might be. It might be that, but let's get grounded. Let's keep you focused. Did you do that last thing? I need you to do that thing. You got to do the thing. You know what I mean? So I really like Lisa's approach to it because it's practical.
Yeah, you do. You have a practical approach too, though. I mean, it's totally practical. I feel like you have a way with getting to people's like essence of who they are and show it to them in a way without knowing you're doing there. You've done that to me through this podcast without me. You haven't said that. It hasn't been obvious, but I can feel you doing it. I'm looking at my qualities that you redirect to me and show me, and I'm finding them like things that I've been insecure about or something. I'm not looking at it going right now, kind of like, it's not so bad. I can get through this, that kind of thing. That's really great advice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you came on this podcast. If you ever want to come back, let me know, because this has just been wonderful, and you are just delightful, and you're a great speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I guess lastly, I would love to thank the listeners and watchers, and we love you. I love you. And Melissa, do you love the listeners and watchers?
I not only love the listeners and watchers, I want the listeners and watchers to know that anything they want is available. on some plane in some way, and to make steps towards this accepting what you desire without self-judgment, without anybody else ever having to know. If you can just look at your own face in the mirror every day and smile at yourself and say, I know who you are and I know what you want, and love that about yourself, that's good enough. You never have to do another thing.
You don't. It's really
nobody else has to know. You don't have to share it. You don't have to perform it. It's just for you to know your truth and to love yourself for it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And yeah, knowing your truth is a hard thing to do. Maybe that's why we're all here. One of the reasons, one of many, maybe the only one. I don't know.
Maybe.
But with that, thank you so much. And everybody have a wonderful time wherever you may be, at night, in the early morning, like crack of 5:30 a.m.
The crack.
Crack of 5:30 a.m. I don't know what that means. And you're opening your eyes. You're like, I got to listen to that podcast. That's what you're doing right now. Have a great time with it. Peace out, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.